Today I'm going to tell you a story that shows you how important it is to do your research and talk with students at a flight school before you register there, because this school we talk about today is one that I looked at and even I was considering registering at, and it could have been the biggest mistake of my life. Hello my friends, welcome back to Late Departure. I'm Adam, and those who watch this channel know that this is my journey to become a commercial pilot and all the stuff that happens along the way. Today we're going to talk, in continuance of our previous videos, a little bit more about schools, one school in particular, and you'll notice that this review is not going to be like one of the typical reviews that I usually do, because I talked with a bunch of students from a school called Hart Air, and Hart Air, it has had some pretty mixed reviews. Some people said that it's a good school, some people said it's not a great school. And when I started actually talking with students, I was horrified and shocked to find out what actually was going on there, because to be honest, they had a deal they were posting online that was a little bit too good to be true. They had this deal posted online where they're saying you could learn how to fly for $2,800, and yeah, it is something that sounds too good to be true, and when it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So instead of doing the question by question today, I actually have a story that was given to me by one of the people who went to Hart Air, which actually answers all the questions that I ask anyways. So I'm going to read this story to you all, and hopefully you'll get a good idea of what happened at the school and what could possibly happen to you if you don't do your research on flight schools and don't talk with students before you register at them. So here we go. We have all heard of get-there-itis, which, by the way, if you don't know this term, it means when pilots rush to go somewhere. Usually it's to the detriment of their safety. So that's something we want to try to avoid, to not want to get there as much as possible. So usually we've heard of get-there-itis when it comes to pushing weather. I seem to have fallen victim to a case of get-it-itis. In my case, the it is flight training. As a result, my adventure into the world of aviation has gotten off to a horrible start. I am upset, disappointed, and feel taken advantage of. My hope is that by reading of my experience, any burgeoning student pilot will not make the same mistake I have. I made a post a month ago, Monday, pondering out loud how I was due to have my first flight lesson and my plan of moving through my private pilot's license. I was advised to look into obtaining an ultralight permit, as it would allow me to fly solo quicker, and it would be upgradable at a later date should I choose to do so. That idea appealed to me, and I quickly found myself in the offices of Hart's Aviation, the ultralight training school in Langley. I've seen him advertising his program at the Abbotsford Air Show for the 2 years I've attended. Learn to fly in 8 weeks and only $2,800 is what his advertising says. He sold me with his interpretation of the benefits a private pilot license destined student pilot will gain by going through his program. You'll be able to pass your P-Star on your first try, as I'll review the exact questions you'll be tested on. Transfer 100% of your hours with an ultralight permit to the recreational license. Then transfer 100% of those hours to the private pilot's license. You'll definitely save tons of money this way. I've never had a student fail a flight test before, and it's a 100% passing rate, this Mr. Hart said. So, equipped with the advice I got from a few people in the BC General Aviation Facebook page, and salivating at the possibilities that this apparent low-hanging fruit offered, I signed up. We agreed on a schedule of lessons where I'd fly 2 to 3 times a week, Saturdays and Sundays, and the alternate Fridays I had off. I was asked to prepay for the program $2,800 up front, which included 14 hours flight time and ground school. Now, remember how I always say, guys, if someone's asking for money up front, you really have to consider it carefully. And this is a great example of why this is not a good idea. So continuing, I should have known better, but I was excited to get started, and he knew this. Feeling psyched about my signing up, I didn't realize that no contracts were signed for this training program. Even my ground school at another school needed some agreement on both parties regarding the terms of the enrollment. My first flight was cancelled and rescheduled due to a mechanical failure, which is completely understandable. I went to ground school, and I was intrigued at how simple Hart, the owner of Hart Aviation, explained the concepts he was teaching in ground school, until I learned that the P-Star that students were required to take for the ultralight permit was a severely watered down version of the one required for the private pilot's license. After weeks of constant excuses for canceled flights, I decided that enough was enough. He only seemed interested in flying midweek when the weather was 100% clear. I'm not a confrontational person. I avoid confrontation at all costs, but I knew that I wasn't happy with the product I had paid for, and I had to address my frustrations head on with the owner. Everyone I spoke to about this was reassuring me that asking the school's owner for a refund of the balance remaining would be like asking for a refund at Walmart or Best Buy, just another transaction between any merchant and customer. Boy, was I wrong. The school owner said he can't give me a refund because of a variety of reasons, including, but not limited to, first, because he's a non-profit, in quotes, non-profit. 2, because I paid for the training as a package. 3, because every cent he makes as profit goes into the maintenance of his aircraft. And 4, because he isn't like big corporations with a huge bank account and profit margin. Let me list 2 reasons why all of his reasons are inexcusable. First, when I signed up, no contract was presented to me. He even admitted this to me on Saturday when I pressed him on it. Number 2, likewise, I wasn't informed of nor presented with a refund policy with explicit terms defining what is refundable and what is not. The only concession he was willing to give me was that he'll give me my money in the spring when he expects business to be better. I know of at least one individual in the group who was otherwise going to erase all hopes of learning to fly because of her experience with Hart's Aviation, but I hope by introducing her to the amazing community we have in the British Columbia General Aviation Facebook page, I have kept, however, a small flame burning in that dream of hers. If she wants to share her experiences, I hope you all give her the same attention and kindness that was offered to me. And by the way, this is me again. I interviewed a few students who went to Hart's Aviation, and all of them were telling me a similar story to this. So this is, unfortunately, the broader experience there, and this is definitely something we need to be careful of, and you, as a prospective flight student, need to be careful of. So back to the story. Hart shouldn't be allowed to market his product without it being known that he doesn't have the customer's interests at Hart. Get it? Hart Aviation. Ho ho! Contrary to what he alludes to in his online interactions. So, for example, you can see him commenting a lot in AV Canada. You can see him commenting in Facebook and stuff like that. So clearly, he's kind of putting on a little bit of a show that makes him look better than he actually is here. So, to conclude, this student says, "Thank you for your time, everyone." So I hope that you all can take this story to heart, not Hart Aviation, of course, and realize that there definitely are some shady and, I guess these days young kids say suspicious activities that are happening in the flying community. And while I'd say the majority of schools are pretty above board, a lot of schools are still doing stuff like this. Like, you still see hidden fees. You'll still see things like we've talked before about, like 0.2 ground school time applied no matter what happens. Like, there are things that just happen. Some schools, I had students who were reporting money just disappearing from the money that they invested in the school there. So this is stuff that you really have to be careful of. So you should be keeping track of receipts, keeping track of purchases, making spreadsheets that are tracking what you're spending in your aviation training. All of this stuff is super, super important. But most of all, I hope that, again, go to the schools and find students, or go onto the BC General Aviation page, go to the Flying Canucks Discord, go to the Student Pilot Canada Facebook page, and talk with students who go to these schools, or listen to the experience of people who have gone to these schools and hopefully not had horrible experiences, but if they had, you'll be able to stay away from making one of the worst mistakes in your life. And again, I bring up the story quite often, but don't forget about that news story of Bluebird Flying Academy out in Langley or wherever it was there. The place that basically had these international students coming in who paid tens of thousands of dollars and then just took their money basically, right? You don't want that to happen to you. I don't want that happening to you. That's why I'm making these videos. Of course, I also don't want it happening to me as well. I am trying to make sure that we have a good, friendly, inclusive, and honest aviation community, because you know, the aviation community is amazing. The people are super friendly, super nice. Everyone I've talked to has been very, very nice, very honest with me. And I think if we as prospective flight students can enter this community and continue this really wonderful trend of being friendly, being honest, that's gonna make a better world in flying for all of us and for all people in the future as well. As always, thank you for joining me on my late departure here as I'm sitting next to the beautiful Vancouver airport. And in the future, we're gonna continue on this journey. We're going to see what happens. We're gonna find out very soon which school I end up going to. And in the meantime, I hope you're able to find what you're looking for, find a great flight school. I hope that you're healthy, happy. If you're flying, have fun, fly safe, and remember, it's never too late. See you next time.